Mouser Electronics is an authorized semiconductor and electronic component distributor focused on new product introductions from its leading manufacturer partners. Serving the global electronic design engineer and buyer community, its website features more than 5 million products from over 1,200 manufacturer brands. For more information, visit Mouser.com. All right, guys, I'm Nicolette, and today Brian and I are back with Don Akery. He is now the CEO over at Waldom Electronics, though. He was over at TTI last time we spoke to him, so we are getting a little bit of a shift here. So, new Don, and I not new, all right?
Same old Don. Same Don.
So, Brian, I know you spoke with Don back at EDS. So, you know, you had a couple of questions you wanted to follow up with him.
I mean, one of the things I really came away with was how unique Waldom is in our industry, right? So, can you explain to everyone just sort of what the company is and what they do at a high level?
All right, great. And I appreciate the opportunity to do that, because even before I arrived here, I'll say I was not fully informed or didn't understand the model as well, because obviously I wasn't looking for a new job, and the opportunity and the model was so intriguing as I got into it. I had a great job at TTI, and TTI is a great company. Many of my friends are there now, and they're still close friends today. This business does not compete with distribution. Think of it as Waldom being the distributor's distributor. So what we do, we've got inventory, we've got authorization, we're authorized for lines. We take a lot of the excess inventory back from the authorized distribution channel, from the factories, the suppliers on a direct basis. We house that inventory, and then we make it available to the authorized distribution network. Pretty unique model in that what we found that a distributor, and I've run distribution companies for quite a few years, that inventory, if I hung on to it as at a distributor, that it didn't get the exposure. So I typically sold anywhere from about 10 to 15% of it over time, after it became excess for me at the company I was running. What we found at Waldom, we make that inventory available to all of the authorized distribution all over the world. And over about a 5-year period, we sell more than 60% of it back into the channel to support customers. Obviously, it's inventory on the shelf, so there's no lead times associated with it. The pricing structure of it allows the distributor to still buy close to at a book cost or at a column volume resale. Because the inventory is brought into my inventory, it actually belongs to the supplier, and then I manage it. And we share in the profitability of it when a distributor finds a new home for it. So it's a really, really unique model. If you look at it from an environmental standpoint, this is an angle you'll hear a lot more from us on over the years, where everybody's got an ESG program, so the environmental aspect of it. With the numbers I just gave you, where 10 to 15% of it I would sell, that other piece of it eventually would end up, scrapped. It would end up destroyed, end up in a landfill. Some material may be reclaimed from it. Now, instead of that being, anywhere from 85 to 90% of the product, now we've been able to get that down to less than 40%. So it's pretty unique, and I'll say in support of the industry, support of the distributors, that they've got access to inventory that, potentially would have taken lead times for a supplier to produce it. And then I'll say, doing our part to try to, help the environment a little bit.
Okay. How is this important to all the shortages that are going on, right? You have inventory on shelves. The distributors are now buying from you. We see a lot of lead times being pushed out for the authorized distributors. How does this work with Waldom?
Well, if you look at it now, and I'll give you some statistics, some numbers. I've got 250,000 part numbers on the shelf with available to sell inventory. I have a very limited line card at this point. You'll see us expanded over the next months. We've got about 4 contracts that have been signed, and we'll be launching additional lines to the line card. But right now, I've really got about 10 or 12 lines with that much inventory. All right. For comparison, TE and Molex are the two largest lines that I support in these programs. They also are the longest tenured relationships with Waldom. From an amount of inventory, 250,000 part numbers doesn't sound like a lot, but it is a tremendous number for the few number of lines that we have. Now, the value of that inventory at, I'll say, distributor buy cost or book cost is about $350 million. So my business is about $225 million with $350 million worth of inventory. Doesn't take a rocket scientist or a mathematician to understand that turns on that inventory are extremely low. We can do that because we have limited investment in the inventory. So what it does, it makes that huge amount of inventory in a small number of lines available for a distributor to supplement, to augment their ability to support the end customers. So you mentioned what's been going on for the past 2 years, where lead times have been pushed out. I've got inventory on the shelf that may have 25, 28, 52-week lead time from a supplier's factory. So with us having that inventory, it is a good source. All of the major distributors are customers of Waldom. They use it. Again, the product is only from authorized source. So we're an extension of the supplier's factories. So we are authorized in order to do what we do with them. And there's been a chain of custody on the material. So it's not coming back from customers. It's only distributor inventory, authorized distributor inventory, or factory directly from the factory. So having that inventory available, think about it with the stockouts that have occurred. We've been able to help the distributors service their end customers, much, much faster than they would have, especially over the past 2 years.
Explain something to me, Don. So why is there this excess? You're saying now that the authorized distributors, they couldn't get rid of this inventory. Is that how you get it? And what makes Waldom able to do that?
All right. Well, if you look at it, if you're a distributor, and the distributors have, the major distributors, TTI that I came from, an Arrow, an Avnet, a Future, you've got a DigiKey, a Mauser, with slightly different models. They've got big reach of a customer base, but the harsh reality is that each distributor has somewhat of a unique customer base. Mm-hmm. So when you go look at it, distributors make decisions to buy inventory for their shelves. They buy inventory to customer demand, as well as trying to have the right inventory on the shelf to anticipate, I'll say, the future design ins. Well, they get it right most of the time, but not all the time. You end up with a customer that maybe's got a good product, and maybe something happens to where their product quits selling. So they quit buying it from the distributor. So it ends up excess for one distributor is not necessarily excess when you make it available to all the distributors. So think about it. DigiKey talks about having 6,000 or 6 million visitors to their website on a monthly basis. Mauser's in the same, I'll say category. You've got the other distributors. I think Arrow's probably a couple of million. All right. And then, the TTIs, the Highlands, those companies all have hundreds of thousands of visitors. Well, this inventory, if you can make it available to all those distributors, you get a lot more chances that it's visible. In the past, obviously, the internet's opened that up. This is, it's not, if there was one place somebody could go to see every piece of inventory in the marketplace, then maybe this model wouldn't be needed. But the model, we feed into the distributors, both into their ERP systems, so that their purchasing people have it as an option. Obviously, they can buy it direct, buy it and get it when they need it to support the customers. That's always their first choice. We're an alternative choice for that. We also feed it into some of the distributors into their sales systems so that their salespeople can consider it when they're quoting a customer. If it's a 52-week lead time and Waldom has inventory and we're authorized, then that gives them a competitive advantage in order to, I'll say, better service the customer and win the business. So it's a pretty unique model. Some of the distributors do show some of our inventory on their websites. They make that decision on their own, whether they do that or not. They typically would not do that if they've got inventory on the part. So again, it's a supplement or augmentation to their inventory profiles that's in addition to it. So again, it was a brilliant, I'll say, business move when the Nizam family actually thought of this and proposed it to some suppliers, and it's added big value. I mean, think about it. The program's been in place for over 10 years, and we've taken back with, I'll say, those couple of key suppliers, about $500 million worth of inventory, and we've sold 300 million of it, again, through distributors. We do not sell to OEMs. We do not sell to EMS accounts. It is to distributors that we sell the product back through, authorized distributors in almost 100% of the cases.
I understand now.
Yep. I'll tell you, we do a couple of other things that you would label as probably master distribution. So we do have some of the suppliers come to us and say, you know what, I've got some product that I would prefer to manufacture in, 100,000 piece lots or 50,000 piece MOQs. And that's not really, I'll say, how the demand comes in from the distributors. So I have made investments in large inventory like that and make it available to the distributors in smaller interpack quantities. It's not uncommon for there to be a 50,000 piece MOQ, but yet the interpacks are in 1,000 pieces. So I'll sell them in 1,000 pieces. So again, that's a pure master distribution program. There are some to where the supplier has decided, based on the profile of the way that they manufacture and they sell the products, I've got about 4,000 part numbers that I am the exclusive source. The supplier does not supply them directly to the distributors. They put them in my inventory. I pay for them at a discount offer that I can sell at a book cost to the distributors. And then the distributors come to me and I'm the only source for it. So again, it's a way for them to manage their factories more efficiently, keep the costs down, and it's having the inventory available to all the distributors so that they can react to the customer.
Now, did you see, so with some of the stuff, now you guys have all these other parts. Did you see engineers and distributors being able to get them from you? Did you see engineers designing in some of these parts that were sort of removed from distributors with all the shortages going on, like being redesigned back in because they couldn't get things?
Yeah, no, and don't think a lot of this inventory. I mean, before I got here, I would have said that I looked at the inventory and I thought a lot of the Waldom inventory was, end of life, obsolete. That is absolutely not the case. Most of the inventory, they're regular runners, standard parts. Okay. I'll say it's a long tail. So instead, it's not. There are some A and B rank parts, A and B from a movement code for the distributors, but there's a lot of C and D parts. So they're one-off to where they're not, I'll say, widely used, and that's really where the huge value comes in. But yeah, to your point, the engineers were definitely looking at what we had inventory of, and they were designing it in order to, I'll say, fill a gap of a part that had a year lead time on it.
Are there any applications or parts or industries that pop out to you when you think of where a lot of this alternative part usage and rearranging is taking place?
I think it's happening. Obviously, the past 2 years, it's been equal opportunity problems. So if you look at it, obviously the automotive industry received more in the media related to the shortages there. But the truth is, it happened pretty much across the board. I will say the one exception probably was the commercial aviation part of the business, where that had been, I'll say, taken a hit, and the volumes there were well off what they were at peak. So I'll say less there, more everywhere else. Before I came here, when I was at TTI, and I think the last time we talked, what's a little different in this cycle is that every segment of the market, with the exception of commercial air, has been dramatically growing. Industrial is a great example. The industrial segment for distribution is the broadest number of customers that typically most of the distributors deal with. There's a lot of applications. Some of them, the volumes are, I'm not going to say that they're not high. There's some pretty big customers in there. But there's a lot of medium-sized customers that fill that space. And even in that space, for the past 2 or 3 years, the demand has been up in the 20+% range. I've been in the business since 1984. I've never seen that happen in the industrial space for the prolonged period of time that it's gone on for. So the sheer demand of it, obviously shortages have occurred, throughout all of the sub markets, or at least that's what I've seen. I think it's gotten better. I do believe I'm seeing more product that is showing up at all the distributors from the suppliers, as they've done a miraculous job managing through, I'll say, shortages, the pandemic, everything. If you'd have told me what the world was going to face 3 years ago, I would have said some of these suppliers couldn't have survived it, and they have survived it with flying colors. I mean, yeah, there have been setbacks where the plants have been closed down for COVID outbreaks and everything, but the way that they've rebounded and been able to manage through, I'll say, everything that they've faced is just a little short of a miracle, I think.
I do feel like some people don't realize how vast the shortage really is. Like I feel like semiconductors get the spotlight, but I was just talking about fans with Sager the other day, and we were talking about the shortages, and they're worse than the power electronics. And I said, but nobody talks about this. I didn't fans, I mean, geez, 40 weeks, 50 weeks on fans.
Yeah, they're a little more complicated in order to manufacture. Look at the power supplies that Sager deals with. They've got a lot of those components that are MOSFETs and things that are in there that have 52-week lead time. So the power supply manufacturers have to try to get those products and have to still be able to deliver. And if you go back and look at the sales numbers for just about every technology out there, every supplier has sold a lot more, even with all those challenges. So they've been able to get product. And again, I think Waldom has helped in some regard, having this inventory sitting there available on the shelf. I think it did plug quite a few gaps for the industry. And the hope is that, the industry sees that. The distributors, definitely some of the distributors who are my customers, they see that the value that's been added. Again, it's not they're not going to come to me and buy from me first, but they're going to come to me when they need help in order to supplement what they do every single day.
So, I mean, we just talked about the ICs, right, being in the spotlight, but we also talked about, like Nicolette mentioned, fans, but power, you see a lot of it. And some of these things are even things engineers think about when they're designing at the tail end of the project, right? Here's my question. So with Waldom, is there any particular areas, like we know Sager's really known for power, right? Are there any areas that you're really focusing on, or, because I know you said you just signed 4 more lines, or areas you're growing?
Yeah, if you look at it, the business really has been built on interconnect, and I'll expand that out a little bit to the sensor space, mainly because of where TE is gone. So I would say interconnect is what I'll say it's the broadest category that we sell, but we also electromechanical. So if you go look at it, lines like a Honeywell or an Omron are two lines that really fit this. Switches fit this model really closely. You will see us, we do a little bit in the passive world. That part of the industry probably needs this model a little more. If you remember 17 and 18 with some of the shortages there, huge number of part numbers, hard for distributors in order to profile the inventory. You'll see us expand in that area. So if you look at the model, you'll see us become, I'll say that distributor for interconnect, for electromechanical, for passive. Power included in there. I know Sager pulls it out. I lump it in with the electromechanical, but the power piece of it, if this model had been in place, we do some work for SL Power. So that is one line. They were bought recently by Advanced Energy, but SL Power, we were able to help, I'll say, keep some of those shortages from happening because we had the excess inventory from the distributors on the shelf, and we were able, in order to support quite a bit of demand, huge demand actually, from SL Power.
Brian, did you cover your questions? I want to make sure that I'm not.
I know, Nicolette's like, I have my whole list of questions. Yes, I did, Nicolette. Thank you for asking that.
Yeah. See, I like it. I don't know what you're going to ask.
I know, me too, Don. I think that's the best way to do it. Nicolette's very straight.
I don't overthink it then. I don't overthink
Yeah.
Well, I like to live by a playbook. And speaking of playbook, I have a question. So, if you were going to write a playbook, right, based on everything that you've taken in over the past 2 years, now transitioning here to Waldom, knowing what you know now, if you had to write a playbook for future electronics industry professionals, let's say battling supply chain issues, what would absolutely be in that playbook?
Well, and obviously, it depends on who I'm writing the playbook for. If I'm doing it for the end customer, obviously, I believe that the distribution has a play as part of a supply chain strategy for any end customer. I'm not sure that parts of the industry understood that up until the past couple of years. I do think in 17 and 18, when we had chip resistor and MLCC shortages, and I think some learned a little bit of a lesson there. The automotive industry felt that hard. Some companies learned a little bit, but they did not, I'll say, necessarily stick. And then this go around, I think a few more have learned that, hey, maybe there's a place for it. So that'd be the start from the end customer. From a distributor standpoint, I think that the distributors have, I'll say, stayed pretty true to the same model that's been around for quite a while. So I believe now that maybe, companies like Waldom that can help supplement, even some of these logistics issues. I think that we all look differently there. I would look at it in my playbook if I was a distributor, would definitely look at, well, what alternatives do I have to supplement it? There's a lot of data out there available to make better buying decisions. But you got to balance those. If you look at, some of the distributors, if they had, some inventory on every part, it would be millions of part numbers, and it would be billions of dollars worth of inventory. And that's tough for a company of any size when you start talking about billions of dollars worth of inventory, which in distribution is the biggest asset. So I think you've got to look at alternatives, companies like Waldom that can help supplement or augment that, I think add a little bit of value. And, if I look at the Waldom model, even before I got here, obviously some distributors figured that out and have made it a part of their strategy to say, I don't have to inventory every part. I've got access to some of these other parts that I didn't have to spend my money on. Definitely the data and learning how to use the data. The industry itself has got to do a better job of not only looking at the history, but looking, more into the future about where the business is going. I mean, that comment I made about industrial growing at 20%, something's going on there, and those products and where that's going, the distributors as well as the suppliers need to be developing products that market needs in order to take them. I'll say it's really the connection of the industrial space is what's going on, and they need to continue to develop. And then the distributors need to make sure they've got the inventory there. And I think some suppliers are doing a pretty good job of that. Some we probably all get caught up, suppliers and distributors get caught up in the day-to-day of just trying to keep up with what you've got. And, in the cycle we've been through, I think a lot of us have not had enough time to spend there. But right now, that playbook definitely needs to include looking at what the future holds.
What do you got, Brian? You look like
I think. No. I think we hit all my questions you already asked.
So one final question. You told us about a lot about Waldom and some of what you're working on currently and what's going on there. But what's next? I mean, what can we expect? Do we expect Waldom to be more of a name that we are aware of and we do understand what you guys are doing over there and how valuable it is?
Yeah, I hope so, because I do believe the model. Obviously, I believed in it so much that I left one of the best jobs in the industry in order to take over as the CEO of the business. I believe that the model delivers a huge value. I think that the first step is to make sure that the industry understands what the model is and what it's not. And that's as much confusion. The piece about us, we don't sell to end customers. We only sell through distributors. That's one that's probably the first piece of information the industry needs to understand in order to, I'll say, get comfortable. The distributors don't want to compete. I don't want to compete with the distributors. I probably would not have taken this job if I competed with the distributors because, they're all my friends. They're the people in this business. And I prefer to be on their side than to be working against them, because there's some great companies and great people. But I look at it, obviously the expansion. I gave you a little bit of peek into the technologies that you will see us expand. Again, those expansion will come pretty quick. Right now, I'm making sure I have the infrastructure in place in order to properly support it. Because if you've got inventory, you've got to be able to ship it within 24 hours or less, which we do today. And if I add 15 new lines on the line card, I need to be able to do that for those 15 new lines the same way I'm doing it for the lines I have today. So you'll see more there. You'll see us do a little more. I was trying to educate the industry on this model. You also, and I'm going to, I'll say, open up something that we haven't talked about publicly very much. We've got a little bit of a technology play. You're going to hear the word Instaca. Instaca is a program that we have created. It is actually going live with 3 suppliers as we speak. But basically, we take, this has really nothing to do with the Waldom inventory. This is above and beyond. We think it's adding value to the industry and to the suppliers. So if you look on a supplier's website, they have a distributor stock list. All right, it's there, it's available. It's information that all the distributors feed to all the authorized distributors feed to them. All right, but it's a list, and they're varying degree of the amount of information there. But if a customer is interested in that inventory, they click on it and they go to the distributor's website. All right, we have created a program that the supplier puts on their website. I'll call it a widget for lack of a better term, because it's not that technically complicated. But it turns that, it gives that stock list e-commerce capability. So a customer can right there buy that inventory. Instaca or Waldom behind the scenes, we're processing the transaction. It's not our inventory, it's just the technology, and we're the processing engine for it. The distributor gets the order. The customer can buy inventory from one distributor, or if they want it from all, they can buy it all right there from all the distributors, and every distributor will get an order for their inventory. So more to come there. We're launching it with 3 suppliers. We've been testing it on a company outside of this industry for a while, so we know it works. So you'll see that coming from us, again, trying to add value, not from our inventory, but from a little bit of technology that enhances the customer experience on a supplier's website. Makes that data, instead of just a stagnant list of data or a list of inventory of what's available, it makes it to where the customer can easily, quickly buy it right there from the supplier.
Is that almost like a drop shipping? I mean, Brian, is that what, because that's what my mind is almost taking me to that concept.
Well, what it is today, I mean, think about it. That list, if you go look at the website, you go click on if you go look at it, there's a list that's got TTI's inventory, Mauser's inventory, DigiKey, Arrow, Avnet, everybody's got inventory. And if a customer wants it, it says buy now. So you press on buy now next to TTI, it goes to TTI's website and the customer places an order. What this does, it basically, the customer says, I want to buy that from TTI and from Mauser and from Arrow. They select all 3 and it's a shopping cart and they check out. And and the distributors all get the order just like they get an internet order. So for them, it's just like they went to their website. The only difference is I'm the processing engine for it. I don't have, the data's not mine, the customer's not mine, but it's just, again, trying to help them sell more of that, helping that supplier and helping the distributors who have the inventory monetize that inventory. Right. So that's something else unique that you wouldn't think would be coming from Waldom. But that product has been developed. It is out and being launched with 3 suppliers as we speak. So you'll see an announcement from us when those are up and live from the suppliers.
Nice. That's pretty cool, because think about it. Say you need 100,000 of a part, and Mauser has 50,000. Right. TTI has 50,000. You could buy it from them at the same time through this one process versus having 2 different transactions.
That's awesome. I got it.
Yeah, absolutely. The end user customer experience is enhanced. It makes it, it gives the customer what they're looking for, ease of doing business.
That's awesome.
Very cool. Cool stuff, Don.
That's exciting. Okay. All right. Well, that is all I've got today. Is there anything that we didn't ask that you think we should have?
No, you guys gave me the chance to talk a little bit about the model, which helps me get the message out. So obviously, it's a great opportunity for me, and I do appreciate you guys allowing me to spend a little time with you and answer a few questions and talk about, I'll say, the Waldo model that obviously I'm extremely excited about. It's been about 60 days now since I've been here, so it's not very long. So I know enough to be dangerous. But the good news is what I thought I was getting into, I've had no bad surprises, only some good surprises where things have been a little better than I thought they were. So, and the way that the industry has embraced and I'll say accepted my move has been humbling and a little bit of a good surprise for me that they've supported me, even though they're still trying to figure out why I left one of the best jobs in the industry. But as you can tell, with where it fits in the supply chain, I'm excited about it. And it's like I said, it really adds value, and it's an interesting business model. And obviously the people, the culture at Waldom is very much on a smaller scale, like the culture at TTI. So it feels comfortable. It feels like a home.
Oh,
that's great.
That's awesome, Don.
Well, good luck, and we're excited to see how things unfold from here.
Thank you very much. Really appreciate the time.
Thank you, Don.